Before we get into it, I want to give a big thanks to those over at PopAgenda for the review code. Shovel Knight King of Cards is the latest entry into the Shovel Knight series, following King Knight as he sets out to become the best jostus player in the land, the king of games. I mean, cards, the king of cards, not games. This isn't Yu-Gi-Oh. Just like the original you may be familiar with, Shovel Knight King of Cards has tight controls and beautiful vistas. King of Cards takes place just before the events of the original Shovel Knight Treasure Trove game. A game where if you defeat all 3 judges, you will then be crowned the King of Cards. Now, this takes place before King Knight took over Pridemoor Keep. So he's not a king, he's nobody, he's just King Knight. Thirsting for a crown to call his own, King Knight sets out to defeat everyone in this game and the judges to become King of Cards and finally get what he feels he so rightfully deserves. Now I'm calling this King of Cards and Treasure Trove because saying Shovel Knight 32 times is going to be annoying. So King of Cards, King Knight, Treasure Trove, Shovel Knight, cool, okay. Throughout the game, you run into a multitude of characters, old, new, ally, enemy. You name it! It doesn't matter because once you defeat them, you bring them on board. You just pick them up with your rats and you scoop them to your ship. It has to be the oddest way to go on an adventure I have ever seen. The events that take place in King of Cards directly affected what happened in Treasure Trove. Now, King Knight has a variety of moves and heirlooms at his disposal. He has a lance, he has his shoulder bash, he has his roll, tons of ways to take down enemies, as well as things to throw at enemies to keep yourself safe when you're in a sketchy situation. As you'll often find yourself in Shovel Knight games because they are hard as nails platformers. This one is no exception to that. You have to be precise, you have to know what you're doing, you have to be very careful at times. And can we just say that auto-scrollers are the worst thing in platforming? Because auto-scrollers are definitely the worst thing in platforming. A moving death floor? No thanks. Especially when things are timed. Because if you missed one cycle, you're dead, son. Now this game is split up into 2 separate types of gameplay. You have the toughest nails platforming, and then you have the jostus card game. Now the jostus card game is an actual card game. It's not cheap, it's not flimsy, it doesn't have holes in it. It's really fleshed out and sometimes really difficult. Now you can get cheats and they are pretty helpful. Yes, I did indeed use cheats. And you can make all your opponents weak cards, you can straight up steal cards that are on gems. These cheats will make some of the very difficult enemies and bosses, because there are bosses in this jostus card game for whatever reason, they'll make them much easier and you'll have a better time playing this card game if you use a cheat every now and then. I don't say cheat just outright. Try to learn the card game because it's a fun card game. It scratches that strategic deck building itch. And it's a nice break from all the pitfalls and the platforming. But some of the enemies are real difficult and you may want to have at least 1 or 2. I'm just saying the gem one's the best. You may want to have 1 or 2 up your sleeve. Now the boss fights in Jostus are pretty interesting, if not downright cheap at times. Because bosses have specific moves that they can use. The bosses can do things ranging from just changing one card into another card to straight up stealing your turn if you take too long. So playing quickly and precisely is key to winning in the later stages. The one gripe I have with this is if you aren't into the whole card game aspect or the deck building aspect, then these sections can be a slog and really frustrating as they are mandatory to get forward in some cases. You have to defeat everyone in that location, including the boss, just to move forward. Now, as always, the writing for King of Cards is phenomenal. It's funny, it's witty. King Knight's shenanigans and his just idiocracy makes situations odd. He's so mean. It's sad, it's funny. It's just enjoyable overall. It's a small story that got a lot of laughs out of me unexpectedly, and just seeing how King Knight functions outside of just being a simple boss was insightful and interesting. I came to like his character a lot more in this, because typically I did not like how King Knight was. Spectre Knight is my boy. But in this, I kind of felt for him. I understood what he was doing and why he did what he did at the end. But, I mean, he's still wrong. But I understand better. And as you're going through the game, you're seeing allies, and you're seeing people like, oh, this is where this person came from. Oh, this is why this is like this. And it all starts to click and make more sense in your mind as to why these characters are where they are in Treasure Trove. Now, the stages are pretty fun. I enjoyed most of them. However, I just personally don't like air stages, like ships and planes and all the stages where you got wind and stuff that's affecting your movement. I didn't hate those stages of this game. I mean, I had difficulty with them because I just dislike those in general, but all of the stages are great. Just shoulder bashing and spinning in the air on top of enemies and falling to watch a huge vista behind you. They were all amazing. Just the set pieces, the visuals, the colors all pop. They were great stages. You visit many of the same locations that are in Treasure Trove. However, they have twists on them, or they're completely different. They're the same area, but they're a different view or a different section, giving the world more weight and making it larger. Now, if you're familiar with the original game and you've been playing through the other stories, this will be more of the same. Hey, I need to do tight platforming. I'm going to this location. I may run into this person. However, you'll be blown away by the changes that were made to King of Cards. Although, the late game stages are really rough. There was many a time I died because I had gone back a few steps and an enemy respawned and then threw something at me or jumped at me while I was in the air, and I get hit and die. That annoyed me a bit, but it happens. It's RNG. I could have probably done something different just to get out of that situation. Now, like usual, and with all of these games, you do run into Baz, and you do whoop Baz. Again, I don't know why Baz just keeps fighting everybody. I don't know what his beef is, but in this game, you still whoop on him. I mean, it's just fun. It's enjoyable. Baz is a great character. Put Baz in everything. Baz for 2020. Give Baz his own game. He's the MVP of Shovel Knight games because he's just so much fun to fight. You also will run into other enemies and bosses on the map. You can run into Mole Knight. You can run into Tinker Knight. All of these tried and true Shovel Knight characters that are just fun to fight against, and see exactly how Yacht Club Games changed up the boss fight. Shovel Knight King of Cards is a fun breakdown of King Knight and a fun introspective of what makes him tick and what makes him who he is. How did he get to this point, and where are we going from here? And while we do know what happens where he ends up, the journey is fun and it's enjoyable, even just taken by itself, outside of everything. So if you have an opportunity to play King of Cards, I'd say try it out. Even if you aren't into the whole deck building and card game itself, you'll enjoy the platforming, the story, the writing, the stages. You'll enjoy all of that. And you may even forget that the Jostus game exists, or accept it as just a part of the game and an excuse to make the game happen. I do have one question for Yacht Club Games though. What is Black Knight doing here? Why is he in this? Why is he in this bush? Like, what? Can y'all explain this? Is this a lore reason? Does he like trees? Does he like shrubbery? Why? If you already have Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, you get this for free. If you have not played Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, this is a good standalone, but I highly recommend you play Shovel Knight. It's an insanely great game, a great series at this point. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game if you've played it. If you haven't, what do you think from what you've seen in this video? Let me know that in the comment section down below. And don't forget, if you're a fan of gaming, consider striking that subscribe button and hitting the bell. This is Mattmade, and I will see you in the next video.